Asterisk Chapter 48. Gut feeling asterisk anonymous POV anxiety gripped me as I paced the dimly lit confines of my apartment. The familiar walls felt suffocating, a prison of my own making, as I attempted to reach the one person whose silence weighed heavily on my conscience. I repeatedly dialed his number, cursing under my breath each time the call went unanswered. It had been days since he had set Ava's house ablaze, an act that not only torched her sanctuary but also ignited a firestorm of dread within me. The absence of his communication twisted my gut with fear. What could he possibly be planning? I was left in the dark, unable to strategize any kind of counterattack should he decide to make a reckless move, akin to what Black Serpent had done before his downfall. In a moment of desperation, I snatched up my phone and called Blake, one of my most trusted men. "Boss," his voice came through clearly, the urgency palpable even over the line. "Have you managed to track him down?" I pressed, my voice a tangle of tension and anticipation. I prided myself on being unflappable, the master of my own fate. But right now, a gnawing sense of foreboding clawed at my insides. "No." "It's like he vanished into thin air," Blake responded, the frustration in his tone matching my own. "No one has laid eyes on him, and we're running out of leads." When news broke that Black Serpent had been apprehended, I knew I had to eliminate him before he became a liability. The cops would already be closing in, and I wasn't about to let him point the finger at me. I had taken matters into my own hands, and like a surgeon, I had severed that connection before his betrayal could rip through my carefully constructed life. I had been right. The police wasted no time in pursuing him. Luckily, I had eliminated that threat discreetly and swiftly. I understood men like Black Serpent more than most. We were cut from the same cloth. If he had been caught, he wouldn't think twice about sacrificing me to save his own skin. Loyalty was a currency he didn't possess, and I couldn't afford any loose ends. "Boss," Blake's voice broke through my thoughts, bringing me back to the present. "What is it?" I snapped, irritation bubbling to the surface. This investigative dead end wasn't just troubling, it felt wrong. The gut instinct that had always served me well screamed that something bigger was on the horizon, and I hated being in the dark. "We're keeping an eye out, I promise." "We'll notify you as soon as we find anything," he assured me. "Just find him. I need to know where he is yesterday," I barked before severing the call, the phone slipping from my grasp as I resumed my restless pacing. My heart raced, adrenaline coursing through my veins as I felt the weight of impending disaster wrap around me like a vice. The situation was spiraling, and I was powerless to halt it. "Fuck!" I roared, my fist colliding with the wall, the impact biting into my skin. A dark premonition haunted me, a feeling that all my secrets, all my careful lies were teetering on the edge of destruction. Each heartbeat echoed the urgency of my need for control, and I was painfully aware of the consequences lurking just beyond the horizon. In the midst of my turmoil, I found my phone once more, a lifeline to the only person who could ease the tumult within me, the only woman who understood my plight, the one who had always been there, unwavering and strong. "Hi, Mom," my voice softened as I sank onto the worn couch, the tension in my body beginning to fade. "Hey, honey," she exclaimed, her cheerful tone slicing through the darkness. "It's wonderful to hear from you. I've missed you terribly." The warmth of her words washed over me, and I closed my eyes, imagining her smile. "I've missed you too, Mom." "More than you can even know," I confessed, feeling the weight of my troubles lift for a fleeting moment. "Why are you calling? Shouldn't you be at work?" she inquired, her concern seeping through the line. How could I explain that I needed her voice as a buffer against what loomed? That I sought comfort from the storm that threatened to engulf me? "Just wanted to hear your voice," I replied, the catch in my throat betraying my emotional struggle. "Are you all right, sweetie?" Her worry was palpable, a recollection of my childhood safety net. I smiled at the pet name that had accompanied me through the years. "I'm fine, just a bit stressed with work, that's all." "You work too hard. You should take a vacation or something." "You've earned it," she chuckled, the familiar sound bringing a smile to my face. I could picture her bustling around the kitchen, pots clanging as she prepared one of her delectable baked goods. Oh, how she adored baking. "I'll take a vacation eventually when things calm down. Right now it feels like everything's falling apart," I half-lied, burdened by the shadows looming at my back. "Make sure you take a weekend off and breathe, okay? It might help clear your mind," she advised, her wisdom shining through once again. That was why I cherished her so fiercely. My mother was one of the few truly brilliant women I knew, and her insights were gold. With the threat of the hitman still lurking in the back of my mind, I resolved to heed her advice. After all, stepping back for one weekend couldn't hurt. Thank you, Mom, I really needed to hear that. My heart swelled with gratitude. I'm always here for you, sweetie, she replied softly. I love you too, Mom, I whispered, feeling an unexpected surge of emotion. I was about to share more when my phone buzzed, the screen lighting up with Blake's name. I have to go, Mom. Take care and send my love to everyone, I told her, urgency replacing the warmth of our exchange. Will do, sweetie, just take care of yourself. She urged, her voice steeped in affection. With a quick confirmation, I ended the call and immediately dialed Blake again, my heart racing. What do you have for me? I barked, the softness from earlier evaporated. I needed answers, especially about Hawk, the name he preferred to go by. The man who had sent shockwaves through Ava's life and mine, whose very presence radiated danger. He had terrorized Ava, and I feared the worst. A moment of silence stretched between us before Blake's voice cut through like a knife. We traced his whereabouts, and it appears he has Ava. I felt the breath hitch in my throat, a rush of adrenaline locking my joints. Where is she? I demanded, urgency tightening my grip on the gun now resting in my hand. Send me the location, I commanded, determination coursing through my veins. It was time to end this reckoning once and for all. Chapter 49. Kidnapped Ava. 2 long months had passed since the day my house was reduced to ashes. In that silence that followed, an eerie calm had settled over my life. So far, the sinister attacks had ceased, and I found myself lingering on a fragile hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, the monster that had haunted me had finally given up his deadly pursuit. Chief Thompson had warned me against getting too comfortable, cautioning me to remain vigilant and watchful. Such predators don't relinquish their prey easily, he said, his eyes narrowing with grim conviction. They're clever, biding their time, conceiving the perfect moment to strike. He was right, of course, but how was I supposed to remain on constant alert when the quiet felt so promising? The temptation to relax my defenses was stronger than ever after the recent tranquility. These past months had been a breath of fresh air, certainly the best I had experienced in years. Granted, none of these fleeting joys could compare to the bliss I felt in Noah's arms, but still they brought newfound brightness to my days. Yet, what truly made these moments memorable was Ethan. Every second spent with him unfurled a new chapter of self-discovery, revealing parts of me I never knew existed. I delighted in his company, and if I allowed myself to be honest, I sensed a burgeoning affection for him. He was everything I had longed for Rowan to be, a tender-hearted soul, attentive and loving. And let's be real, the passion we shared was electric. Whenever I caught the gentle glimmer in his eyes as he looked back at me, I couldn't help but hope he felt the same stirring emotions. I envisioned a future woven together with him, but the weight of uncertainty loomed over me. Did he want the same? Many might argue I was moving too quickly, and perhaps I was. But after dedicating 9 precious years to a man who had filled my heart with disdain, I felt no remorse for snatching at happiness with both hands. This was my moment, and there was no point in holding back. Just then, the shrill ring of my phone broke through my reverie, yanking me out of the blissful haze centered around Ethan. Letty's voice blared through the speaker, laced with urgency. Where the hell are you? Tonight was our weekly meetup, and I had kept her waiting a touch longer than planned. I'd blame it squarely on Ethan and his skilled ministrations. Relax, I'm just pulling up, I retorted, rolling my eyes even though she couldn't see me. Ironically, Letty was notorious for running late herself, often by a good 30 minutes. Fine, she huffed and abruptly hung up. I parked my car and hurried inside the club, immediately spotting her perched in the VIP section, grinning like a Cheshire cat. Tonight, we had decided to break from our usual rendezvous in restaurants. Letty craved an escape, and I couldn't resist eagerly agreeing. This was my first encounter within a club's radiant chaos, and to be honest, I had only sipped on alcohol twice, once during my ill-fated night with Rowan and again when Ethan and I first tumbled into bed together. Amusingly enough, the first encounter had faded into a blur, while the latter remained crystal clear. Finally, Letty chirped when I slid into the seat across from her. Given our location, the ambient noise was bearable, making it easy to catch her exuberant tone. Sorry, I got caught up doing something, I shot back with a teasing smirk. Her eyes gleamed with mischief as she leaned forward, instantly understanding without requiring me to spill the details. Then cheers to you, babe, she shrieked joyously, raising her glass high before taking a generous gulp. Clearly, her spirits had risen to new heights. Something told me she had indulged a bit too much already. "You've got to try this drink. It's divine." She waved over the bartender, insisting he whip me up one too. A few moments later, he returned, setting down a glass brimming with vibrant color. I took a sip, my eyes widening in surprise at the sweet flavor washing over my tongue. "I told you," she laughed, pride lighting up her features. "It really is amazing," I admitted, savoring the taste. I had always been put off by the biting bitterness of most drinks, and this was a welcome departure. "So, how have things been with you?" she asked after a moment, leaning back as if she expected me to drop a juicy revelation. "Not bad, though this week has been a bit of a whirlwind," she sighed, her brows furrowing slightly. "Anything I can help with?" I offered, genuinely wanting to ease whatever burden weighed on her. "If you could just conjure a few extra hands, legs, and maybe a different brain, then yes." She slouched against the couch, feigning exasperation. I chuckled, shaking my head. "I'm afraid those are all out of my jurisdiction." "And you? Have you heard from Rowan at all?" She pivoted, her gaze sharp and probing. Since the day he had clashed with Ethan, every attempt I made to reach him ended in silence. His lawyer was quick to respond to any query I raised, but Rowan himself remained a ghost. It gnawed at me that I was the one who had suggested he keep his distance. Maybe this time he was genuinely adhering to my wishes. "Nope," I sighed, a sense of deflation seeping in. "He clearly doesn't want to talk, and I won't press the issue. Maybe it's for the best." Letty's brow furrowed, a flicker of intrigue shimmering in her gaze. "I really doubt it." "Why that?" I asked, my skepticism fluttering to life. "Just a hunch I think something's going on." I frowned, considering her words. The only possible explanation for Rowan's silence might stem from Emma's interference. However, I couldn't quite see him as someone who'd simply follow orders, especially when it involved any decision related to Noah. I shook off the thought. "It doesn't matter. Tonight is about us having fun. Let's forget about him." "You're right," she nodded, her voice brightening as she checked her phone. "Oh shoot, I need to hit the bathroom. I'll be right back." Before I could respond, she dashed away, leaving me alone at the table. But as the minutes trickled by, unease spread through me as she failed to return. After 5 agonizing minutes, my worry mounted, prompting me to rise and scan the club. When I didn't find her in the bathroom, panic twisted my gut. Rushing back to the VIP section, I approached the bartender with urgency. "Have you seen the woman I was just with?" He smiled as recognition flickered in his eyes. "Yes, I saw her exit through the back door." "Thanks," I muttered, my heart racing as I burst through the club doors. Why hadn't she informed me? Especially since her phone and purse had stayed behind. I stepped outside, scanning the area frantically, but there was no sign of her. Just as I reached for my phone to call Travis, a sudden, searing pain exploded at the back of my head, and darkness enveloped me. When I regained consciousness, everything swam around me in a haze. My head throbbed with relentless intensity, the world around me slowly coming into focus. A chilling realization washed over me. I had been kidnapped. My wrists were bound, and pain shot through my arms as I hung limply from the ceiling. I twisted and yanked at the chains, fighting against the restraints. "Don't bother, you won't be leaving this place alive," a gravelly voice echoed from my left. I turned, my heart racing, and caught sight of my captor in the dim light of the warehouse. The barren space felt desolate, abandoned, void of life or the slightest hint of comfort. The man before me appeared to be in his late 30s, with thinning blonde hair and a beard framing his thin lips. His amber eyes glinted with malicious delight. "Who are you, and what do you want?" My voice trembled with fear, but I fought against the terror gnawing at me. "Who I am isn't the crux of the matter. As for what I want, you already know," he said. Lazy shrug accompanying his callous words. Panic surged in my chest. My fears had materialized into frightening reality. My luck had finally run dry. I was trapped here with a deranged killer, and the thought of being found in time felt more like a desperate wish than a certainty. "Please let me go. I beg you. I have a son who needs me," I pleaded, tears streaming down my cheeks as the dread of leaving Noah behind enveloped me. "No can do." "I'm getting paid handsomely to kill you," he said, a chilling smile spreading across his face. "If it's money you seek, I can give you whatever you want. I'm wealthy," I stammered, grasping at any sense of negotiation. He stepped closer, an unsettling grin tightening his features. "I wish it were as simple as that, but I accepted this job, and I always see my assignments through," he declared with pride, as if he were boasting about a noble cause. What kind of twisted morality did he possess? "Please, I'll do anything. I can offer you anything you want, just let me go." My voice wavered as I fought against the tears cascading down my face. He took a menacing step forward, his knife glinting as he let it trace down my cheek. "You're quite pretty and I'd consider it, but losing my reputation for you? Not worth it," he whispered into my ear, sending cold shivers crawling across my skin. Just then, the heavy door swung open, and for a fleeting heartbeat, hope ignited within me. But the next words that slipped from my captor's lips obliterated that spark. "Boss, look what I've got," he exclaimed, pride shining in his eyes. "I promised you I'd get the job done." A cold wave of betrayal crashed over me, and I felt as if the ground had fallen away beneath my feet. The very person I had never expected to turn on me had pulled the strings, sealing my fate. How had I been so blind? How had I not anticipated this treachery? Chapter 50, Missing Rowan. I'm a coward. No other way to put it. 2 damn months have slipped by, yet I still can't summon the courage to confront Ava, to even whisper a word to her. What could I say? What could I possibly tell the woman I once accused of deception, only to discover, too late, that she was never at fault? The shame weighs heavy on my chest. I'm ashamed of the heartache I caused her, ashamed that I let her shoulder the blame all alone. I stand by, motionless, as others mistreated her, convinced in my ignorance that she deserved it. Now, faced with these realities, I find myself paralyzed. How could I ever meet her gaze again? How could I offer an apology when the very concept feels foreign? I've prided myself on being infallible, always in the right, except when it comes to Ava. I take a sip of whiskey, trying to drown this guilt swirling inside of me. For just a moment, that amber liquid gives me solace, allowing me to pretend that my world hasn't been turned upside down by the truth. "Sir, Mr. Sharp is here to see you. He looks somewhat distressed." My housekeeper's voice breaks through my fog of self-pity. "Let him in," I respond curtly, turning away as I hear the door open. The truth had surfaced like a tidal wave. Gabe, unable to hold back any longer, shared the evidence with everyone. Both families now know that Ava had been honest. She truly was drunk when everything fell apart. Guilt rippled through everyone, save for Emma. She clings to her grudges, convinced that Ava's actions are unforgivable, a betrayal that trumps all. My relationship with Emma remains a minefield, with her relentless pushing only sending me further away. It's as if something inside me is twisted and broken, preventing me from embracing the future I thought I wanted with her. When Travis steps into my office, his distress is palpable. "What's going on?" I inquire, noticing his discomfort. "I don't know, but I need your help." He runs a hand through his hair, his panic palpable. I'm freaking out. I rise from my desk and settle on the edge, pouring a glass of whiskey for him. "Calm down and tell me what happened." He takes a deep breath, anxiety shadowing his features. "I just got an unexpected call from Ava." But right before she could say anything, I heard a scream, then silence. I tried calling back, but she didn't answer. I reached out to Letty since they were together, but I can't reach her either. It's been almost 2 hours. My heart races at his words. Ava wouldn't reach out to Travis unless something was very wrong. "Do you know where they went?" I ask, my fingers wrapping tightly around my phone. "No, Letty didn't tell me." I hit dial on Drake's number, my mind racing. He answers on the first ring. "Get me the location of Ava's car." "On it." The line clicks dead, and I focus my thoughts praying for good news. Unbeknownst to her, I'd placed a tracker on her car, an invasive measure perhaps, but I just had to keep her safe, especially after she insisted on dismissing her security details. A few tense moments pass before I receive the location. It's parked near one of my clubs. "Let's go," I say, determination coursing through me as Travis and I rush out the door. Within minutes, we arrive. The club's pulsing music hits us like a wall as we step inside. I show a bartender a photo of Ava and Letty, and he nods, guiding us to the private booth they chose. Both their purses are still here, along with Letty's phone, Travis notes, rummaging through Letty's bag. "Have you seen them since they arrived?" I ask the bartender, narrowing my eyes. "No," he replies, the urgency evident in his voice. "They ordered drinks, chatted for a bit, and then the girl with black hair stood up, went to the bathroom, and then left. The brunette followed shortly after. They never came back." Fury ignites within me, twisting my insides. "You didn't think to check on them?" I roar, forcing the bartender against the wall. He gasps in fear, wide-eyed. "I didn't notice. It's been so busy today, I swear." "What the hell is going on here?" My manager, Francis, strides toward us, confusion etched on his face. I turn to him, exasperated. "What kind of idiots are you hiring, Francis?" "WH, what do you mean, Mr. Woods?" he stutters, going pale as he realizes the gravity of the situation. Explain to him, Travis, I snap, pacing as my mind spirals into chaos. I can't be responsible for the explosion I'm about to create if I have to spell it out for him myself. As Travis explains, I watch Francis's expression morph into one of horror. You said they both went outside? I whirl. Back to the bartender. He nods, trembling. Get me the CCTV footage, I order, bolts of urgency coursing through me as I exit through the back door. Outside, I scan for any sign of them, but the shadows yield no clues. Frustrated, I kick something beneath my foot. Looking down, I see it. A phone, not just any phone, but Ava's, the same one I de-gifted her. Just then, Travis emerges with a tablet. You have to see this, he urges, urgency etched across his features. As the video plays, dread washes over me. Ava appears, emerging from the club, only to be struck by a man who subsequently hauls her unconscious body into a getaway car. Panic grips me tighter. Ava has been kidnapped. But what about Letty? At least we got a clear view of the bastard's face and the car's registration number, Travis says, trying to inject a note of hope. Ignoring him, I dial Gabe's number, knowing he's got the resources we need. I need you to track someone down for me, I instruct, relaying the details and sending over the video footage. Don't worry, Ava. I'm coming for you, I whisper under my breath, the weight of my promise echoing in my chest. Chapter 51, Betrayed Ava. I stand there, frozen in disbelief as my heart races uncontrollably, pounding like a drum against my ribcage. How did I end up in this nightmare? How did I fail to see the truth lurking right beneath the surface? The air felt thick with tension, each breath a struggle as I processed the chaos around me. My world was unraveling, shattering into countless fragments. Boss. The word echoed in my mind, taunting me, driving me to the brink of insanity before yanking me back to the brutal present. I was grappling with my fate, but now I was filled with something far worse: betrayal. What the hell is going on? A voice cut through the darkness of my thoughts, raw and furious, jolting me back to the scene unfolding behind me. I turned slowly, dread pooling in my stomach. There she was, Letty, bound to a chair, her eyes wide with fear and fury. Blood trickled down her forehead, evidence of the violent hand that had claimed our freedom. I had been so entrenched in my own fears, it took all this for me to realize she was there, suffering alongside me. Isn't it obvious? I kidnapped both of you, our captor said, a smirk crawling across his face as if he reveled. In our despair, why her? I'm the one you wanted. I spat, my voice trembling with emotion. My gaze fell to the ground, unable to bear the weight of my betrayer's gaze. How could this be happening? It felt too surreal, like a nightmarish film playing in slow motion. It wasn't in the plan, but then I saw her outside, breathing in the freedom you once enjoyed. She's related to your family, and I knew she'd fetch a higher price for ransom, he explained casually, like he was discussing the weather rather than sealing our fates. A sickening realization gnawed at me. Letty was Travis's girlfriend. He would move mountains to save her. A chilling sense of dread washed over me. I don't get it, Letty chimed in, her voice a mixture of confusion and hope. Then why is Ethan here? Is he here to rescue us? The mention of his name felt like a dagger twisting in my heart. I had finally convinced myself I had found a good man, a glimmer of hope amid the darkness. Yet here I was, engulfed in shadows far worse than I had ever imagined. Our captor laughed, that cruel, mocking sound that sliced through the silence. Rescue? Ha, he's the one who hired me to kill Ava. Letty gasped, and I felt the world tilt beneath me. I closed my eyes, trying to shield myself from the undeniable truth. Hearing it out loud shattered the last vestiges of hope within me. I had wanted to believe there was an explanation, some reason behind his actions, perhaps an evil twin I knew nothing about. But the silence surrounding Ethan spoke louder than words. I sagged against the chains that bound me, their coldness a painful reminder of my reality. How could I possibly confront him now, knowing he had plotted my death? All the moments we shared, the intimacy we built, was it all a mere charade? That's impossible. Ethan is one of the good guys. Letty defended him, though her voice trembled, betraying her own doubt. A small part of me wanted to believe her, and yet the brutal evidence was suffocating. Ethan had been manipulating me, wrapping me in a cocoon of deception while deep down he had plotted my end. The wound in my heart was raw, deeper than any hurt Rowan had dealt me. Why couldn't he have just killed me outright instead of orchestrating this cruel game? To bring the very person he intended to kill into his web of deceit was the most twisted betrayal imaginable. Now that you're here. Boss, do you want to do the honors or should I take care of it? The man grinned maliciously, sliding a knife toward Ethan. With reluctant resolve, I finally met Ethan's gaze, searching for any sign of the warmth that had once melted my defenses. Instead, he was lost in thought, his attention glued to the man who sought to end my life. My breath hitched as I watched him accept the knife, dread pooling in my stomach. Why? I found my voice against the weight of despair. Why string me along if you intended to kill me? Why pretend? Why sleep with me? Why, Ethan? Sobs erupted from my chest, uncontainable tears streaming down my face. His azure eyes, once shimmering with affection, felt devoid of life, cold as ice. How could something that once felt so beautiful turn into such agony? Did he orchestrate our first fateful meeting as part of his twisted plan? Save your breath, boss. She's as good as dead. The man sneered at me. They had to have laughed at my expense countless times, thinking just how foolish I had been. Letty's scream jolted me back as Ethan suddenly swung his gun toward the man, a flicker of rage igniting within him. Ethan, don't! Letty shouted, panic. Rising in her voice as he pulled the trigger, blood splattering across the room, a gruesome tableau. But I stood there, stunned into silence, my throat constricted tight. Turning the gun towards me, Ethan's face was unreadable. Panic and desperation brimmed in Letty's voice as she pleaded for my life. Ethan, please, it's Ava, you care about her. She grasped at straws, but I felt exhaustion wash over me, mentally and physically drained. Do it, I rasped, my voice filled with a quiet fury. Ava, what are you saying? Letty's voice rose sharply, but I ignored her, staring into Ethan's eyes, searching for the love I once knew. But it was gone, replaced by an emptiness that mirrored my own desolation. Just do it, Ethan, I screamed, tears cascading down my cheeks, my heart splintering further as he remained motionless, finger hovering over the trigger. I felt the weight of despair dragging me down. Life had become unbearable, and in that moment, death felt like a release from my pain, a way to escape the torment he had wrought upon my heart. Closing my eyes, I braced for the noise that would end it all, shattering the suffocating silence surrounding us, and then I heard the shot ring out, echoing through the void like a thunderclap. Chapter 52. A girl named Nora of a guttural shout slices through the haze of my thoughts, forcing my eyes open. Ethan stands before me, clutching his shoulder, crimson blood seeping between his fingers. Drop the fucking gun, Ethan, I swear I'll blow your brains out. Rowan's furious voice cuts through the fog like a knife. Rowan, of all people, was the last person I wanted to see right now. The shame washed over me in waves. He had tried to caution me, but I had chosen to ignore him. I had chosen poorly. I have the whole building surrounded, Rowan threatens, his tone unwavering. You're outnumbered. Just then, police sirens wail like banshees in the distance, relief quickly flooding my system. Ethan reluctantly lowers his gun, placing it on the ground. His eyes, dark and stormy, lock onto mine, pinning me to the spot. I want to look away, to escape from the reality of our shattered dreams, but I can't. I need to bear witness to the fool's errand I've embarked upon. Ava, darling, look at me, his voice calls out, pulling me from the icy grip of Ethan's gaze. Only then do I fully register that Rowan stands protectively before me. Tears prick at the corners of my eyes as I confront his familiar face, his last words a haunting echo in my mind from 2 months ago. I focus on him, allowing his presence to be my anchor in this turbulent sea of despair. I got you, he whispers gently, his voice laced with kindness. Rowan wraps me in his embrace, and I fight against the urge to let the tears fall freely. My heart aches as my gaze shifts back to Ethan, now on the ground, the police cuffing him in a methodical manner. His wound seeps, but no one seems to notice or care. I watch in misery as they lead him away, each step he takes punctuating the death of a future I so desperately believed we shared. Are you hurt? Rowan's voice pulls me back to reality, momentarily breaking the fog encasing my mind. I shake my head, my mouth a stubborn prison that refuses to utter a single word. What was there to say? Maybe if I played pretend, I could wake up and find this was all an elaborate nightmare. None of it registers. I notice Rowan's lips moving, but his words are drowned out in the tumult of my disarray. I see Travis, shock written all over his face, accompanying. Letty, Gabe walks in with a couple of officers, but it's like watching a play from behind a veil. I am beyond numb, I might as well be shattered into a million pieces. Why? Why did he do this to me? Why go through the charade just to end up trying to kill me? Nothing made any sense. The anguish festered inside me as I continued to replay the moments we shared. I felt us moving, Rowan's steady hand around my waist, guiding me. I was so lost in my head, in the depth of my anguish, that I didn't even register the bumpy ride until we jolted into a parking lot outside the police station. Brian was waiting, leading us inside to take our statements. I floated through the motions, words escaping me like grains of sand through my fingers. The timeline blurred beyond recognition. Ava, Rowan's gentle shake beckoned me back to reality. I blinked and found myself in a sterile white room, surrounded by familiar faces, Travis, Gabe, Letty, and even Emma, who loomed there like an unwanted specter. Letty's head was bandaged, and instinctively I reached up to touch my own. I didn't even realize they had tended to me. There was an ambulance at the warehouse, Rowan explained, softly brushing my hair back from my face. They checked you over and put the bandage on to stop the bleeding. Other than that, you're fine. I nodded, but then a wave of distress crashed over me. What is she doing here? I spat, pointing icily at Emma. The last thing I needed was for her to witness this unraveling of my very being. Silence hung in the air, thick and uncomfortable, as they glanced at me with sympathy I couldn't bear. Just as I considered ejecting everyone from the room, the door swung open, slamming against the wall. Ethan entered, still shackled, his shoulder wrapped and bandaged. At least it wasn't bleeding anymore. So, you requested to hear from Ethan, and here he is, Brian said tiredly. Maybe he can explain why he deceived everyone, including our entire department. He hasn't said anything? Travis questioned, pulling Letty closer to him as tears glimmered in her eyes. I understood the betrayal she must feel. I had introduced her to Ethan, forged connections we had all shared in laughter and warmth. Her anguish mirrored my own. No, he refuses to say a word. Brian's tone was steady but weary. I faced Ethan, and his expression bore a cold intensity that drew me in against my better judgment. Why did you do this to me, Ethan? I managed to voice, my tone tremulous. His impassive gaze bore into me, chilling and unyielding. What had happened to the warmth we once shared? Did he possess a switch for his emotions, easily flipping it between warmth and ice? Or was that warmth merely an illusion? If so, he was a masterful actor. I wanted the company, he replied, his tone so devoid of feeling it shocked me. The gravity of his words settled over me, and confusion clouded my thoughts. What company? I shot back. I didn't own a company. I invested in them, but I held no claim to one, unlike Rowan. The only entity I dared to call mine was the Hope Foundation, an unlikely target for Ethan's ambitions. What company are you talking about, Ethan? I pressed, desperation creeping into my voice. I needed to understand why he had played this cruel game with my heart. I wanted your grandparents' company. I worked hard for it. It was only fair it was given to me, he declared, his words deepening my confusion. You're not making any sense, I scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping me. You did that. For a company that I have no right to? If you wanted it so badly, you should have gone after Travis, considering it was left in his name. Travis shot me a look of shock, but I didn't care. Everyone knew that my grandparents and father hadn't bequeathed me a dime. I didn't even have shares in the family business like Emma did. Ethan sighed heavily, gathering the chaos within him before unearthing a bombshell. I'm not talking about the Sharps. I'm talking about your real grandparents. What the hell are you talking about? Travis boomed, his voice laced with disbelief. Don't listen to him, Ava, it's probably bullshit. I remained silent, unwilling to side with him. It's not bullshit. I am telling the fucking truth, Ethan spat, turning to face me with renewed intensity. Tell me you've never felt that they aren't your real family. Tell me you've never doubted that you are truly a Sharp. A lump formed in my throat, and panic coursed through me. I wanted to deny his claims, but the truth lay buried too deep. I had questioned my identity more than once. The way my family treated me in stark contrast to how they lavished love upon Travis and Emma gnawed at my core. I had envisioned taking a DNA test, desperate for confirmation that I belonged somewhere. Deep down, you know the truth, Ethan accused. You know the Sharps aren't your family. That's why you never felt at home among them. I turned my gaze away, unwilling to let them see the insecurity dancing in my eyes. I couldn't allow them to unravel me further. Did you really not see us as family? Travis questioned quietly, hurt lacing his voice. Does that surprise you? I retorted, fire igniting within me. I was never treated as one of your own. I've always been the outcast, watching from the edges while you all existed within your happy family. Oh please, spare us the pity party you throw for yourself, Emma injected venomously. What the hell is she doing here? Ethan and I demanded in unison, casting incredulous glances at each other. "She's your family, Mrs. Sharp," Brian stated as if that explanation sufficed. "I don't know what drugs you're smoking, but no one in this room, except for Letty, is my family. I'd prefer if they all left, especially Emma." The air grew thick with tension, but I stood firm. It was the truth. Family is one that cares and know. "One here, except Letty, took a moment to care for me. Can we just get back to Ethan?" Gabe interjected, seemingly desperate to steer the conversation. Ethan shrugged, his demeanor growing detached. "I'm going to tell you a story about a girl named Nora." Nora came from a middle-class family. Her father was a preacher, and both he and her mother were devout Christians. She was raised to follow God and the teachings of the Bible, rigidly adhering to them, until one day she met a boy, Theodore, though he preferred to be called Theo. As he spoke, we became entranced. I had no idea where this tale was leading, but the suspense wrapped around us like thick fog. They met at 11 years old, and despite her attempts to steer clear of him, inexorably, they drew closer. Their friendship blossomed into a relationship when they were 13. Nora knew it defied her parents' teachings, and if they found out, dire consequences awaited her. But love held her captive, and she could not let go, neither could he. She thought it would be simple: hide their relationship until high school graduation, and then escape to a distant college where they could finally be together unencumbered. But life has a way of disrupting the best laid plans. He took a deep breath, preparing us for the next turn. Nora got pregnant at only 14. Theo pledged to shoulder the responsibilities because he loved her, yet their families learned of their plight. Nora's father was especially outraged, demanding she terminate the pregnancy. When she refused, they cast her out. With each word, my heart sank heavier, sensing the turbulence that the tale would bring. Theo's parents, on the other hand, were affluent, even owning a small city. When Theo explained the situation to them, they were initially upset but ultimately took Nora in. Though still young, they decided to keep the baby. As the pregnancy advanced, Nora's parents began to realize they could benefit from the situation, especially once they recognized who had knocked their daughter up. Disgust curled in my stomach at the thought of such parents, but I could hardly comprehend what was coming next. After a few months, their true colors bled through. They demanded to retain custody of the baby, hoping to extract a fortune from their grandchild's existence. Nora, Theo, and his parents fought against it, but to make the threat go away, Theo's parents proposed a significant donation to their struggling church. Ethan's narration was devoid of warmth, almost robotic, and I couldn't quite figure out what he aimed to achieve. In an unexpected turn of events, Nora went into labor much too soon, despite her baby not being due for another month. Theo couldn't reach the hospital in time, his parents were away, and the labor proved laborious and long. When Nora finally delivered, silence reigned. There was no cry. Instinctively, she felt something was gravely amiss. Exhausted and weak from blood loss, she lost consciousness. When she woke, she was plunged into despair. Her baby had not survived. It was a stillbirth, an immeasurable agony for them both, knowing they had lost something they had eagerly anticipated holding. I swallowed hard, dread curling through my veins. "Why are you telling us this?" I managed to choke out as fear enveloped me. "I'm telling you this because Nora and Theo are my parents," he stated, leaving a beat of silence that felt like an eternity. "And more importantly, they are your parents too. You're the child Nora carried when she was 14. You're the baby that supposedly perished during childbirth." As his words struck me like a crushing weight, the world around me grew dim. Everything shifted, and in that moment, my very existence unraveled. Chapter 53. Not siblings. The air in the room felt thick and suffocating as I sat frozen beside Rowan. My thoughts spun wildly in my mind, grappling with the shocking revelation Ethan had just thrust upon me. James and Kate Sharp weren't my parents, and Ethan claimed to be my brother. "What?" I screamed, the weight of his words crashing down on me like a tidal wave. "You slept with me knowing you're my brother? That's absolutely disgusting. You slept with him." "Why would you sleep with him?" Rowan's voice boomed, his protective fury electrifying the atmosphere. It felt like a storm was brewing within the confines of the room, ready to unleash its wrath. I shot him a fierce glare, my anger flaring. "That's none of your business." But truthfully, my mind was consumed by Ethan's damning declaration. If what he said was real, it meant that I shared a night of passion with my own brother, and he, fully aware of our relationship, had crossed that line. The thought churned my stomach, and nausea surged within me. What kind of twisted individual would willingly sleep with their blood relative? The more I learned about Ethan, the deeper my doubts sank. Had he been playing me all along? "You aren't my sister," Ethan stated coolly, tearing through my racing thoughts. "But you just said Nora and Theo are your parents." I shot back, struggling to wrap my head around the contradiction. I was adopted. That part was true. After my father died, Nora and Theo took me in. "We aren't blood related, so we didn't commit incest." A smirk danced across his face as he added, "But I can say I loved every second when you screamed my name." A wave of humiliation washed over me, my cheeks flushing with heat. Even if we were not related by blood, my disgust did not lessen. If his words were true, he should have never laid a hand on me in the first place. Rowan tensed beside me, his hands balled into fists, jaw clenched in barely contained fury. I ignored him. Too immersed in the chaos of my own thoughts. Brian's voice cut through the tension, pulling me back to the moment. "You said Nora's baby died. Why then are you claiming Ava is that baby?" he pressed, his expression revealing his skepticism. "Yeah, it makes no sense," Gabe piped in, his brow furrowing with confusion. It was true. There was no way Nora and Theo could be my parents. If the doctors had insisted that the baby had perished, I had to believe it was true. The depth of this lie felt insurmountable. After all, Ethan had described how the baby was unresponsive at birth, something Nora had witnessed herself before she passed away. That's what she believed, Ethan continued, his tone grave. She even held a small ceremony and buried the baby. It was months of heartache for both of them, especially for Nora. She fell into a deep depression and had to be admitted to a psychiatric facility. His words resonated deeply within me, dragging out the empathy I felt. I didn't know Nora, but as a mother, the thought of losing Noah, my child, was a terrifying pain I couldn't begin to imagine. The anticipation of bringing a new life into the world, only to watch it slip away, would be more than I could bear. It took time, but with the unwavering love from Theo and his parents, she eventually pulled through. They married when they were 22, ready to attempt another baby. But fate dealt her another cruel blow. She was told she couldn't conceive. The doctors, when she was still very young, never informed her how those complications during labor damaged her womb for good. "It broke her," Ethan continued, his voice laced with a blend of sorrow and anger. "But she made the choice to adopt. That's when they brought me into their lives, giving me everything, including their last name." I recalled how fondly he spoke of his parents, the adoration etched in his words. Yet, the enormity of his revelations left me shaken. "So how does Ava fit into all this?" Rowan pressed, his glare burning like a brand on Ethan's face. "My grandparents died in a plane crash, but before their demise, they were quietly investigating the circumstances surrounding their granddaughter. They harbored suspicions of foul play. They chose not to tell Nora and Theo, fearful the truth might lead to more pain. It was during this time I learned they had a hidden stipulation in their will, one that Theo was completely unaware of. Everything, including their estate and company, was to be inherited by their granddaughter should Theo retire or, God forbid, die. The family lawyer was privy to their search and the stipulation." Ethan's intensity heightened. "I couldn't let that happen. I worked for that company since I was 25, clawing my way up. When I uncovered the truth, that there had been foul play, I was shaken to my core. Nora's parents bribed the doctors and nurses to fake everything, even the death of their own granddaughter." I listened in disbelief, each word seeping deeper into my consciousness. They feared the embarrassment of their daughter becoming a mother out of wedlock. While she was pregnant, hiding her sin was easy enough, but once that baby was born, it would have been impossible to conceal. They executed a cover-up, faking everything so they could offer their granddaughter up for adoption instead. "My search led me to you," he continued, a cruel malice evident in his tone. "I decided the only way to dismantle this would be to eliminate you. If you didn't exist, that clause would be null and void. I arrived here, gathering information, and given the contempt surrounding you, your supposed family, including your husband, I thought I was doing them a favor. After all, a woman who would deceive and ensnare her sister's boyfriend couldn't possibly be worth knowing." His words struck me as if he had slapped my face. The same man who comforted me, who assured me my past mistakes weren't my fault, was the very person who believed I deserved death for them. I gasped, struggling for breath against the sharpness of my growing agony. "I have to clarify," Ethan continued. "The first hit wasn't ordered by me, merely a circumstance I seized. I saw an opportunity to gain your trust. What better way than to play the hero? It worked. You let me inside your world." My heart cracked wide open as I recognized the magnitude of his betrayal. I had been a fool, a mere pawn in his sinister game. Why would you need to get close to me if you had already hired goons to kill me? I whispered, desperation lacing my voice as I sought answers. He shrugged dismissively. Because it would be entertaining to toy with you. I figured I could take my time, make your destruction all the sweeter. You were so naive, so trusting. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. And my plan B? Well, that was simple. If my hired guns failed, it would be easier to finish the job myself if I'd already got close to you. I hung my head, shame washing over me. Waves, I had begun to feel something for him while all the while he was devising my downfall. It was meant to be straightforward, get to know you and then dismantle your existence. His voice trailed off as his eyes scanned the room, landing back on mine, awakening something within them. Was it guilt? Regret? In the blink of an eye, it vanished behind a cold facade once more. I wanted to ask what had stopped him, but fear gripped me. Did it even matter now? Yet, even if Ava had died, wouldn't the company have passed to Noah? Letty interjected, her brow furrowing in confusion. Not quite. I erased every scrap of her existence, ensuring the family lawyer couldn't trace her, Ethan replied curtly. Moreover, the will makes no mention of any children Ava might have had. This is insane. Are you implying that Ava is not our blood relative? Our parents must have known about this the entire time. Travis shot to his feet, disbelief and rage battling on his features. Ethan sighed, throwing Travis. An icy glare. That's exactly what I mean. And honestly, knowing the kind of woman she is, I'm relieved she's not tied to such a disgusting, hateful family. The atmosphere erupted as Travis lunged at Ethan, but Ethan nimbly dodged, leaving Travis sprawled across the table. Rowan's eyes burned holes into Ethan's forehead. That's rich coming from the man who wanted her dead. Ethan met Rowan's rage head-on before returning his focus to me. I was about to terminate the hitman's services, but he vanished. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. He had already taken you, he breathed, a flicker of desperation washing over his features. If you don't believe anything else I've said, then at least believe me on that. I couldn't hold his intense gaze any longer. I turned away, my feet propelling me out of the room. I found myself outside, my heart clenching painfully in my chest as if someone had gripped it tightly. Tears streamed down my cheeks, no longer willing to be restrained. A sob exploded from the depths of my soul, the full weight of his betrayal crashing over me. Suddenly, a strong presence enveloped me, pulling me into a solid chest. The comforting scent of Rowan's cologne wrapped around me like a blanket. It's okay, Angel. Let it all out, he murmured, his deep voice a soothing rumble that calmed the storm inside me. I pulled away slightly to face him, allowing my tear-streaked visage to be laid bare. It's okay. You can say it. Tell me how much of a fool I was. You can tell me you warned me, I stammered between sobs. His gray eyes softened, and he enveloped me in his warm embrace once more. SHH, he whispered gently. I will never say that to you, Ava, never. I continued to cry, wishing for the pain to melt away. In that moment, I found myself weeping in my ex-husband's arms, the man I had once loved holding me after the man I had dared to trust shattered my heart with his betrayal. Chapter 54. The Howells the clock ticked towards noon as I stirred from a restless slumber. My mind, still half entrapped in the remnants of sleep, initially believed that today might be different, perhaps even a fresh chapter. But the painful truth crashed down upon me like a meteor, shattering my fragile hope. This was no mere nightmare. Ethan had truly betrayed me. Tears brimmed in my eyes, a familiar ache tightening around my heart. I had cried myself to sleep the night before, feeling utterly drained and exhausted from the emotional turmoil. I had hoped, wished, prayed for a miracle to turn back time, to rewrite the painful script of my life. But here I stand, caught in a cruel reality that felt all too real. With heavy limbs, I swung my legs over the side of the bed and hesitated. Energy eluded me, yet I knew wallowing in grief wouldn't ease the storm raging inside. I shuffled to the shower, hoping the warm water would wash away my sorrow. It didn't. I emerged as defeated as I entered, the weight of everything that had transpired pressing down on me like a suffocating blanket. Dressing in a simple t-shirt and yoga pants, I made my way to the kitchen, my stomach growling softly in protest. Just as I reached for the eggs, the doorbell rang, pulling me from my thoughts with a jolt of exasperation. I sighed, weariness settling upon my shoulders. I wasn't in the mood for company. All I wanted was solitude, space to grapple with the heartbreak that invaded my life. Hi, Letty greeted me, her small smile strained, reflecting the fatigue that marred her once bright demeanor. She looked worn down, her struggles laid bare in the shadows beneath her eyes. Hi, Letty. I stood half in, half out of the door, an awkward barrier between us. I didn't wish to be rude. Her kindness was evident, yet the idea of having someone nearby felt unbearable. I longed for the comfort of stillness, a reprieve from the chaos that swirled in my mind. "Can I come in?" she asked, a hint of desperation in her voice as she took a step forward, taking my reluctance as consent. "Yeah, sure," I mumbled, stepping aside, noting the boxes in her arms as she crossed the threshold. "Food," she announced, placing the containers on the table as I followed her into the living room. My stomach growled again, a reminder of my hunger, and I was grateful for her thoughtfulness. The last thing I wanted was to cook right now. We settled into the sofa, a heavy blanket of silence falling over us as we began to eat. My mind drifted while chewing, lost in a whirlpool of thoughts and emotions. "How are you?" Letty ventured after a while, her worry palpable. "I'm really concerned about you, Ava. This can't be easy." The instinct to lie flared up briefly, a desperate attempt to quell her worry. But that instinct was quickly drowned by the realization that honesty was my only lifeline at the moment. I felt like I was teetering on the edge of a cliff, desperately trying to find solid ground. "It isn't easy," I confessed, my voice shaky. "I can't wrap my head around the fact that Ethan isn't the man I thought he was, and the people I trusted, who I thought were family, they aren't related to me by blood." The words hung heavy in the air, each one more burdensome than the last. I pondered which truth cut deeper, the idea of Ethan being a stranger or the shattering knowledge of my true lineage. Did knowing my real parents mean life would have been different? Would it have shielded me from the heartache that had become so familiar? Yet, every thought was laced with the undeniable reality that had arisen from it all. Noah, the idea of a world. Without him was a chasm of despair I refused to explore. I would take all the pain if it meant I could keep him in my life. Oh, how I missed him right now. He had always been my anchor in the storm. "I can't imagine what you're going through," Letty said softly, her voice breaking through the fog of my reverie. "I wish I had the right words to comfort you." A soft smile graced my lips despite the weight in my chest. She had never been one for platitudes, but her authenticity was what made her presence comforting. "I know you're trying," I replied. "It just hurts. I was finally starting to move past everything, thinking I had found someone to love me. And then all of it just crumbled." I blinked back tears, fighting against the vulnerability that threatened to swallow me. I felt like a fool swept away in a fantasy that was nothing more than a mirage. Letty sighed deeply, a moment of caution in her tone. "You've got to hear this from me, Ava. If I'd known what you were projecting all along, I would have put a stop to it." "What do you mean?" I pressed, my defensiveness flaring. "Ava, listen. You can't keep looking to someone else to fill that void, especially not a man. You went into this relationship with Ethan banking on love, hoping he would make everything right. You can't build your happiness on him or anyone else. Only you can truly heal that wound you've relied too much on others for love, and that's not a foundation that will stand." Her words cut like a blade, carving deep into my consciousness. I felt the walls inside of me tremble, threatening to collapse under the weight of her truth, the truth that demanded I confront my deepest fears. "Ava," Letty's voice pulled me from my introspection. "What?" I snapped, a surge of frustration bubbling to the surface. I hated the way she was making me question myself. "Someone at the door," she stated, a hint of urgency coloring her words. It was only then that the ringing of the doorbell pierced through my thoughts. Guilt washed over me, mixing with my irritation as I rose to answer it. As I swung the door open, my heart plummeted. There stood Ethan. The last person I wanted to see in this tortured moment. My breath caught, and anger flared within. "Wait, Ava," he called, but I was already moving to slam the door shut on him. "Ava, please." His voice was desperate as he kept his hand against the frame, preventing my retreat. "What do you want, Ethan?" The words tumbled out through clenched teeth, a boiling blend of fury and heartbreak coursing through my veins. "I know you don't want to see me," he began, his tone cautious. "But there are two people I'd like you to meet." As he stepped aside, my gaze fell upon the stunning couple behind him. The woman had cascading black hair, expressive brown eyes that seemed to carry a weight of their own, and a beauty that was ethereal. Beside her stood a tall, broad man with honey-brown waves and captivating green eyes. My heart beat erratically as something about their presence tugged at the corners of my memory. "Ava, this is my adopted mother and father, Theo and Nora Howell," Ethan said, inhaling sharply. "Mom, Dad, I want you to meet Ava Sharp, your long-lost daughter." The revelation sank in, sending shockwaves through my core. Their names echoed in my mind, crashing against my consciousness. The Howells, one of the most powerful couples in the country. No wonder their faces stirred a sense of familiarity. My heart raced. A world I never knew awaited me within the revelations that unraveled before my very eyes, entangling me in threads of fate I had yet to untangle. Chapter 55. Our daughter, please come in. Letty's voice cuts through the stillness, sending a jolt of surprise through me. I realize I had been standing there, lost in my thoughts like a statue. I step aside, allowing them into my space, my mind racing with disbelief. The Howells were in my house, the very people who might soon be connected to me in ways I had never imagined. How are you even out? I direct my question at Ethan as we settle into uncomfortable silence, the weight of yesterday's events still hanging thick in the air. Bail, he mutters, his gaze darting around the room, avoiding me like I'm a specter. Just yesterday, Brian had posed the question of pressing charges against Ethan, an idea that gnawed at my conscience. Yes, the betrayal was horrific and the scars ran deep. But was I strong enough to take that leap? Ethan's crimes hadn't just hurt me, they had twisted the fabric of my very existence. I was caught in a web of anger, grief, and the undeniable truth that he had taught me lessons about resilience I wasn't fully ready to acknowledge. Yet, there was the matter of Travis and the police pressing their own charges, a relentless pursuit fueled by the crime he had committed. I'm sorry for what my son did to you, Ava. Nora's words sliced through my turmoil, laced with both warmth and the faintest hint of reproach. I stare at her, the silence thickening. Apologizing is one thing, accepting wrongdoing is another. The fact that she still referred to him as her son unsettled me. If she condoned his actions, then where did that leave me? If she turned out to be my mother after all, could I even accept her in my life? Your sorry doesn't change what he did. I manage, my voice steady, even as Letty interjects boldly. You're regretting your son's actions, but were you complicit in bailing him out? If he told us you mourned for your biological daughter for years, does this mean you're still okay with what he did to her? Letty's question hangs heavy in the air, probing for the truth I dare not voice. We're by no means okay with what he did. It was monstrous. Theo's voice is strained, yet earnest as he directs a fiery glare at Ethan. But how could they justify bailing him out? He should pay for his sins. I felt Letty's indignation coursing through me, scratching the surface of my own raw wounds. Ethan's actions felt like salt in an open wound, further festering the pain I long held inside. Because he's still our son and we love him. I may not have given birth to him, but he's been ours since we adopted him at the age of 10. Nora's voice quivers, her eyes welling with unshed tears. I found something unsettling yet relatable in her words. As a mother myself, I could envision standing by Noah no matter what. Even if my heart shattered, I wouldn't abandon him, I would fight to help him to be there. Yet this bitter reality etched deeper scars inside me. Ethan's cold gaze locked onto mine, and it felt like staring into a chasm devoid of warmth, where once had dwelled the flicker of a love I had cherished. Was this haunting stare his true self, or just a mask forged by his actions? Shaking myself from the stupor, I turned my focus back to Nora and Theo. You're here because you want something. Let's not dance around it. If this is about his case, I have nothing to offer. If that's all you have, then please leave, I stated, weary and ready to cut through the tension. Their shock was palpable, but I steeled myself against any hint of remorse. I needed to be forthright. There was no other reason for their visit that I could fathom. We came because Ethan told us the truth. We came because you are our daughter, Nora's words tumbled out, laden with emotion, her eyes shimmering with hope. The words felt surreal, echoed in my mind like an impossible fantasy. The people who raised me had never shown me the love I craved. How could I expect that from two people who had only just entered my life? How do you know I'm your daughter? I challenged, rising to my feet. Ethan could have twisted the story. I don't look anything like you. They radiated beauty that seemed almost otherworldly, while I felt hopelessly unremarkable, lost among them. Ethan stepped forward, handing me an envelope. I took your hair for a DNA test. It matches, he said, almost sheepishly. With quivering fingers, I opened the envelope, and as I read, the truth unfolded like a nightmare that had somehow morphed into a profound reality. My DNA matched with Nora and Theo. You have my brown hair and your mother's captivating brown eyes, Theo added, his voice firm but softening as he gazed warmly at me. Even without those features, I just know you are the daughter that was taken from us 28 years ago. I turned away, overwhelmed as tears cascaded down my cheeks. The weight of it all crashed into me like a tsunami. My past, the life I had built, had been a veil over the truth. Each spiteful look from the Sharp family, each dagger of disdain felt newly raw, bubbling up to the surface. They knew I wasn't theirs. Why not let me go if they didn't want me? Their motivations became blinding as rage surged within me. How could they hold on to me and hurt me so deeply? "It's okay, my love," Nora's voice, gentle and soothing with a pet name that echoed my affections for Noah, shattered my defenses. "Let it all out," she urged, wrapping her arms around me. The warmth enveloped me, an unyielding comfort that felt profoundly right. As I crumbled into her embrace, sobs racked my body. And I finally felt at home in a way I had never known. I absorbed the mother's love pouring into me, washing over the years of pain as she held me close, even as my tears soaked her designer dress. Soon, another set of arms joined us, Theo, steadfast and supportive, completing the circle. I sobbed until I felt drained, the tears ebbing away. "Are you feeling better?" Nora asked softly, her hands cradling my face as we slowly untangled. "Yes," I managed, a faint smile flickering to life. "You're our daughter, and we love you. We've always loved you, even when we thought we lost you. We're here now, and all we ask is for you to allow us a chance to care for you, the way we never could before," Theo implored, emotion flooding his eyes. Rapture and anguish wrestled within. This was everything I had longed for from the two people who had raised me. It was striking to realize Theo and Nora took a 10-year-old boy into their hearts and wove him into their family, with love encompassing him fully. In sharp contrast, the Sharp family had treated me like a ghost, never seen, never loved. Before I could respond, a sudden ring at the door pierced through our moment of connection. "Don't worry, I got it," Letty said, her tone resolute as she moved away. I heard the door swing open, followed by a flurry of whispers, a tension crackling in the air like electricity as Letty argued with someone outside. Just as curiosity compelled me to check, Travis strode in, flanked by Emma and Rowan, his presence a storm in our fragile tranquility. Surprise rippled through me. What were they doing here? Why did they seem so inseparable, like some officially designated trio? Gabe was conspicuously absent. "I'm sorry, Ava, I tried to stop them, but he pushed past me," Letty said, a mix of annoyance and sincerity lacing her tone as she shot Travis a glare. "What are you all doing here? What do you want?" I asked, weary yet prepared to brace myself for whatever came next. "Mom wanted to talk to you, to talk to all of us. She said she wanted to share everything, but you haven't been answering her calls," Emma interjected, her tone less accusatory than I expected. A sigh escaped me, echoing my resignation. The last thing I wanted was to engage in another confrontation, to hear what she had to say. Yet, deep down, I knew I was going to have to face it. Chapter 56, the tension in the room was palpable as Rowan's booming voice sliced through the air. "What the hell is he doing here?" His cold, gray eyes speared through Ethan, radiating rage. I felt the weight of Rowan's discontent settle heavily on my shoulders. Sure, he had stood by me yesterday, but that gave him no right to dictate who was welcome in my home. My father, Theo, it was still strange to call him, that cleared his throat, his presence commanding attention. The sound was like a sharp trigger, drawing every gaze in the room to him. "Theo Howell?" Rowan's surprise flickered across his face, but he quickly masked it. "What are you doing here?" His eyes darted among us, shifting between Theo and Nora, then landing on me, as if piecing together a puzzle with alarming clarity. "It's been too long, Rowan," Theo began, a dangerous smile crawling along his lips. "But I can't say I'm thrilled about the way you've treated my daughter." Nora interjected, her voice steady, though her expression was anything but friendly. "What he means to say is we're absolutely furious about how you and your family have treated our daughter. We cannot fathom partnering with people like you." The atmosphere grew thick with animosity. I watched as Travis's face became a portrait of disbelief, his jaw nearly unhinged. "Is this even possible?" he muttered, his shock evident like a child caught in a web of adult complexities. "Oh, trust me, sweetheart. In this world, anything is possible," Nora retorted, her eyes narrowing like burning embers. A glance at Emma revealed she was equally dumbfounded, her mouth agape as if she could swallow the absurdity whole. "Can we just move on? I'm not in the mood for this," I snapped, my gaze fixated directly on Rowan. He nodded, suppressing the tension as he extracted his laptop, setting it before us with an air of inevitability. We gathered around the screen, and without further ado, he initiated a Skype call with my mother. Her face materialized on the screen, a familiar yet distant silhouette. "We're all here, Mom," Emma chimed in, her attempt at normalcy hanging in the air. "How are you, Ava?" my mother inquired slowly, almost gingerly. Her sudden interest felt disingenuous after 20 years of silence. "Just cut to the chase. No need for fake pleasantries," I countered, my voice firm. Her expression faltered, a brief flash of hurt crossing her face, but I remained unmoved. No amount of remorse could mend the fissures of my past. Taking a deep breath, she began, "When you came to us, you were just a few weeks old, but we didn't adopt you until you were about 15 months. "What do you mean?" Confusion clouded my brow. A wave of painful memories washed over as she continued. "We had a wonderful housekeeper. She was desperate for a family, but couldn't bear the thought of marrying again after her husband's tragic death. They had wanted children, but all that was snatched away from her when a drunk driver took him from her. Winnie wanted a child, but she was resolute in her decision to adopt rather than face marriage or artificial insemination. About a month after her heart broke, her mother called with an incredible story. A preacher from their church found a baby left outside the church and asked if anyone wanted to adopt her. Surprise rippled through the room, my heart racing at the realization. Could it be that the preacher was my grandfather? Destiny felt intricately woven into this revelation. Mother continued, "Winnie took a week off to go back home and retrieve the baby. We expected her back in a week, but she was gone for 2. When she finally returned, she brought you with her. No one knew who your mother was, and there was no documentation. The preacher guessed the mother was probably a frightened teen who couldn't cope," she added with a somber tone. "Despite the circumstances, the social worker allowed Winnie to return home with you as she prepared the adoption papers. You became her blessing, Ava, her light. She named you." With each word, the pieces began to coalesce in my mind. If she loved me like you claim, then why didn't she raise me? How did I end up with the Sharps? "Not long after you came into her life, she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. The prognosis was dire, just months to live," she explained, her voice trembling slightly. "Before her last breath, she asked us to adopt you. We didn't want to, we had our own children and weren't planning on more." The air shifted, the gravity of her admission pressing down on us. Something had nudged the cosmos, and here I was, tangled in this web of fate. "Why did you take me if you had no intention?" I pressed on, my voice cold as ice. Silence enveloped the room as she hesitated to answer. "When Travis was 2, he managed to wander out of the house. By the time I noticed, he was heading toward the road. A car was speeding towards him. I screamed, and somehow Winnie must have heard. I don't know how, but she saved him. She ended up in a coma for months, her right hand amputated, and now she walks with a limp." Her next words hit like a freight train. "We accepted her request because we owed her. Nothing we ever did could repay her. So when she passed, we adopted Ava." Staring down, I muttered bitterly, "I wish you hadn't. Tossing me into an orphanage would have been kinder than the life I had." With you, memories of torment surged, twisting like barbed vines in my soul. The only recollections that came to mind were painful ones. "Do you have any idea how many would envy the life you led?" Emma injected, sneering at me. "Shut up, Emma, or I'll make sure you won't be able to talk again." My voice dripped with venom, anger igniting in my chest. Enough of her petty remarks. "I slept with your ex-boyfriend. Get over it. Watching a 30-year-old woman throw a fit like a toddler is pathetic." "Noah exhibits more maturity than you." My eruption rocked the room, and Emma's eyes dropped, furious red spreading across her cheeks. Then, warmth enveloped me, Nora's hand gripping my shoulder, her grin radiating a rare sense of support. I hadn't expected anyone to champion me like this. "I suggest you heed my daughter's warning," Nora said, her tone low but lethal. "It has been far too long, and you've made her pay for her mistakes far too much. Move on and bury the past. You dare speak to my daughter in that tone again, and trust me, you'll regret it." Shock coursed through my veins at her fierce allegiance. Nobody had defended me like this, save for Letty. It was a bewildering, electrifying moment, and yet beneath it all lay a rush of gratitude. Emma glanced up, the defiance in her eyes quickly replaced with defeat. My mother cleared her throat, pulling our focus back. "I know how we treated you wasn't fair, and for that I'm truly sorry, more than you might understand." "Stop. Just like I told your son, your sorries are far too late. I don't want to hear it. I've no desire to engage with you," I replied, detaching myself from the turmoil swelling around me. Too much had happened, there was no turning back now. Maybe one day I could forgive them, but that day was not today. The wounds ran too deep. "Now that all the dirty laundry is aired, let's end this." Theo proclaimed, his voice booming. Regardless of your grievances, your disdain for my daughter began long before she ever made that choice with Rowan. Know this, you will account for every tear she has shed and every moment of suffering you have inflicted. A lethal tension filled the air, suffocating and thick, as the truth settled like a storm over our heads. Everyone knew Theo Howell was not a man to provoke, ever. Please, Mr. Howell, my mother pleaded, her voice strained. How many times did my daughter reach out? You turned a blind eye, didn't you? Don't expect mercy now when you never offered any. Nora seethed, pure venom dancing in her words, eyes ablaze with fierce hatred. Silence fell, my mother mumbling under her breath, shame swallowing her whole. I think it's time for you. All to leave, I declared, casting a pointed look at Travis and Emma. Their purposes here had been fulfilled. They lingered a moment, staring, before rising to exit. Rowan followed, then Ethan stood, walking over to me. You'll never have to face anything alone. Your enemies are our enemies now. Those who dared hurt you will pay dearly. You will never experience pain again. We love you, my beautiful angel, Nora added, matching Ethan's sentiment with earnest warmth. And then they left, a wave of support washing over me. I felt a rush of relief, but beneath it lurked the question. Did I genuinely desire vengeance against those who had wronged me? And even if I did, would those same individuals retaliate against Ethan for standing by my side? Were Nora and Theo prepared to stand against their own son for me? My heart thudded with uncertainty, a mix of hope and chaos lighting the path before me. Chapter 57. The lingering pain, Emma, I can't wrap my head around it. Ava is a Howell, Travis exclaims as we step into our parents' home, the door creaking ominously behind us. His words linger in the air like a distasteful cloud, and I can hardly come to grips with the shocking revelation myself. Every bit of news has stacked up into a surreal mountain, and I feel like I'm tumbling down its rocky slope. I know, right? I mutter, every syllable tinged with disbelief. For a fleeting moment, I thought I had a firm grip on this twisted game of life. Discovering that Ava was adopted had brought a moment of vindication. But that moment shattered like fragile glass when Ethan casually revealed the truth about her parents, wealthy, influential, and well-connected. My heart sank. I had clung to the hope that Ava hailed from a humble background, one that could cast a shadow over her glimmering present. Deep down, I longed for her to be at a disadvantage, for the cruel social ladder we climbed to have its rungs stacked in my favor. If only she came from a family that struggled and scraped by, then I could bask in the glow of superiority. In our circle, respect is a line drawn by lineage. Wealth matters, yes, but lineage matters more. My dreams of watching her become the subject of hushed whispers and judgment dissolved along with that hope. Her family might not reside in our city, but they're notorious. Just like Rowan S., I think grimly. The Howells hold power. They weave networks that sway the very fabric of this country. If they chose to announce Ava as their daughter, she would rise, shattering the already twisted dynamic by standing shoulder to shoulder with. Rowan, what are we going to do? How do we make her forgive us? Travis's voice cuts through my spiraling thoughts, pulling me back into reality. Was he serious? Why on earth would I seek her forgiveness? It should be Ava on her knees, begging for my understanding over the betrayal she wrought upon my life. Why would we want her forgiveness? I shoot back, bitterness dripping from my words. Have you forgotten what she put me through? I remember, I do. But like her parents said, it's in the past. She has suffered enough for her mistakes, and besides, we learned she was genuinely drunk, he responds, his tone softening. Drunk? I scoff inwardly. Sure, that's an explanation anyone could cling to, but I refuse to buy it. Ava had yearned for Rowan for what seems like forever. There's no way the universe orchestrated a perfect storm of drunken coincidences. I will never forgive her, Travis, I assert, my voice laced with anger. The decision is as ironclad as my heart is heavy. The bitterness has gripped me tightly, and the thought of releasing it feels like severing a part of my very being. Emma, she's our sister. You have to let go of the past. You need to heal. Holding on to this pain isn't good for you, he implores, trying to cast a lifeline to my drowning heart. Forgive her? Really? I wish that hired hand Ethan sent to eliminate her had done it before he showed up to save her. I erupt, fury spilling from my lips. Without waiting for a response, I storm up the stairs, each step fueled by a whirlwind of frustration. Slam! The door swings shut behind me with the ferocity of my anger. Does no one understand how excruciating this is for me? The struggle to move past this torment is an uphill battle I feel ill-equipped to fight. It continues to hurt. Each dawn and twilight carries the same ache, a weight I inhale deeply, only to expel it again, yet its essence clings to my soul. The pain has burrowed inside me, intertwining with my existence, making it feel impossible to imagine life without it. I know it's toxic, a poison coursing through my veins, yet I remain trapped in this cycle of torment. I find it impossible to release the grip of hatred I harbor for Ava. Every ounce of my being screams that she stole everything from me. All that I coveted was Rowan, and she took him away before I realized I was losing him. I had meticulously crafted my life around a future with him, so certain that we were destined to be together, only to have that dream snatched away from me. Even now, after returning with the spark of hope flickering between us, she had to barge in and ruin everything. Rowan hardly notices me anymore. Since that disastrous dinner, he has barely reached out, his gaze fixated on her. With each passing moment, I feel the cold claws of jealousy dig deeper. Once again, she's claiming him as her own. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but things have undeniably shifted. Rowan is no longer the boy who fell in love with me. Some part of him now holds feelings for her. I can sense it lurking in the air between them. The haunting thought of him being in love with her sends icy tendrils of fear wrapping around my heart. The very idea of that would shatter whatever remains of my spirit. I pull out my phone, desperate for a lifeline, and dial my best friend. "Hi, love," Molly's melodic voice greets me on the other end like a beacon in my despair. "I'm falling apart, Molly. Everything feels like it's crumbling down." My voice trembles as I collapse onto my bed, fighting back the surge of tears threatening to spill over. The exhaustion weighs heavily on my shoulders, each breath a reminder of the burdens I carry. "Why don't you share what's plaguing you? Let's tackle it together," she offers, her tone soothing and inviting. So I open up, recounting every painful detail since our last conversation, each word a fragile echo of my torment. Rehashing it all brings new daggers to my heart. The prospect of a life shared with Rowan feels impossibly distant now, snuffed out by Ava. 9 years apart had been a long stretch, yet when we dared to reconnect, everything felt right again until she stepped back into the picture. "Emma, I have to say I somewhat agree with Ava," Molly starts, and my heart sinks instantly. "You what?" I almost choke on my disbelief. "Just hear me out. I don't root for Ava, but you crossed a line when you threatened her son. And all those lies to Rowan, that's not you, Emma. Manipulation won't draw him closer. In fact, they'll only push him away." "But," I stammer, grasping at straws. "Second, if I'm right, Ava isn't the real issue here. She seems to be distancing herself. I can't blame her if she wants to escape the chaos that a man has spent 9 years loving, still fixating on your sister. The real hurdle lies with Rowan. He's either confused about his feelings or blissfully unaware of them where Ava is." "Concerned," she continues, pausing to gauge my reaction. Each word lands like a punch to my gut. The threat of Rowan's deeper feelings for Ava sends shockwaves of anguish through me. "Third, you've got to heal. As long as you wish for Rowan, Ava will remain a fixture due to Noah. Your ongoing conflict isn't just draining for you, it jeopardizes Noah's well-being, and if it plants seeds of doubt in Rowan's mind, he might choose to walk away." Her counsel, while wise, feels out of reach. I can't envision a scenario where Ava and I find common ground. Each time I see her, the memory of that fateful day when Rowan betrayed me floods back. The bitter sting of knowing he jumped into bed with her while I waited for that perfect moment to make love feels unbearable. Their history eclipses my own, and it haunts every thought I have. "Lastly, Emma, you need to come clean," Molly states firmly, pulling me back into the urgency of the moment. "Why would I do that?" I whisper, a surge of fear closing tight around my chest at the thought of my secrets spilling into the light. "Because it's time to own up, Emma. Deep down, you know you're not being fair to him. Just consider it," she urges, her frustration palpable. She has persisted on this path for years, and while there's a sliver of truth in her words, I'm not ready for that confrontation, not yet. I want to cling to my secret just a little while longer, unwilling to confront the inevitable disappointment it will bring when it unravels. And so, here I am, suspended in pain and turmoil, caught between a past I can't escape and a future that feels increasingly uncertain. Chapter 59. A surprise a month has slipped away since everything unraveled with Ethan. Am I okay? Absolutely not. Does the pain still claw at my insides? Hell yes. Have I moved on? Not even close. These days have felt like an unyielding tide, dragging me deeper into an ocean of despair. I once believed I was making progress, that moving on with Ethan would somehow ease the burden on my heart. In hindsight, I realize I was merely shrouded in my own delusions. Ethan's betrayal has unearthed shadows I thought I had buried long ago, scars from past wounds, revisiting me like bitter ghosts. It's as if I've been thrust back to the starting line, only now I carry a weight of new scars that mar the very fabric of my being. The days blur into a haze as I float through them in a numbed stupor. Time has become an indifferent adversary, passing me by as I merely exist rather than truly live. Survival has become my only goal. I claw through each day, grappling with the crushing reality that surrounds me. Everyone else seems to have moved on with their lives while I remain ensnared in a web of sorrow and heartbreak. My existence is painted in shades of gray, an endless cycle of solitude that feels both heavy and suffocating. "Miss Sharp, are you okay?" Mark, one of my students, interrupts my thoughts. That name. It's a constant reminder of those who shattered me. I toy with the idea of changing it, yet I hesitate. The Howell family name feels foreign, and I haven't had the courage to reach out to them since that fateful day at my home. "Yes, I am. Just focus on your classwork," I managed to reply, my gaze dropping to the books strewn across my desk. Teaching used to ignite a fire in my soul. But now it feels more like an obligation. Each day in the classroom becomes a countdown until I can seek solace in the quiet of my own space. Letty and Rowan's perpetual concern only adds to my distress. I crave solitude, yet it eludes me as they keep checking in, each inquiry a reminder of my struggle. My students have sensed the shift. The mirth that once infused my classes has dimmed. Laughter is a rare visitor, and my own cheerfulness has dissipated, leaving behind a shell, a hollow version of myself. Some students have even started skipping my class. I grapple with the question of how to resurrect the spirited Ava they used to know. Instead of seeking the old version of you, perhaps it's time to forge something new? A voice in my head questions. Can I really create a new version of myself? A being who isn't defined by her past, a version freed from the chains of brokenness she has carried for far too long. Lost in thought, the shrill of the bell yanks me back to reality. Gathering my belongings, I burst from the classroom, silent and hurried, avoiding eye contact with my students. I keep my head lowered, rushing to the teacher's lounge, desperate for a moment of calm before my next class. Thankfully, no one stops me. My mood is too fragile for conversation right now. But upon entering the lounge, I falter. It's bustling with chatter and laughter, far more crowded than I anticipated. A soft groan escapes my lips as I maneuver toward the farthest corner, seeking a refuge from the overwhelming noise. As I settle into my seat, my phone buzzes. Nora's name flashes across the screen. I have avoided her calls, uncertain of how to face her, especially given her ties to Ethan. Surging with anxiety, I nearly hang up but find myself pressing the accept button instead. "Ava," Nora's voice pierces through the din. I draw in a steadying breath, unable to voice a response. "Please, my dear, don't shut me out. Don't shut out me or your father," she pleads, her tone thick with emotion. Words evade me, trapped behind a wall of silence. I want to respond, to assure her, but my throat feels constricted, rendering me speechless. "You're my daughter, Ava, and I want to be a part of your life. I want to be the mother I never got to be. I know you're hurting. I want to be there for you. I lost one child. I can't bear to lose another. Losing you again, just as we found each other, would destroy me," she implores, her voice trembling, and I can feel the heartache washing over me like a tidal wave. I blink rapidly as tears brim in my eyes. Damn it. I've been so emotionally raw in these weeks. "I need time," I manage to whisper, fighting to keep the tears at bay. She exhales softly. "I'll give you the time you need, but remember that I love you. I've always held you in my heart, even when I thought you were gone. I hope you can trust me. I'll always be here for you," she says, her love palpable over the line. It's comforting to know I'm wanted, but doubt gnaws at me. Can I trust her? What if this is just a search for someone to fill a void? That fear of being a second choice, just like I was with Rowan, lingers like a specter. I'm not trying to be cold. I'm merely attempting to safeguard the remaining fragments of my heart. "Damn, girl," Carol's voice cuts through my musings as she struts toward my table. I mutter under my breath. Carol, a junior high school teacher, has an irritating knack for poking her nose into my business. Looking at me with mock disbelief, she comments, "All that food. With how you've been eating and your mood lately, one would think you're pregnant." Her laughter fills the room. Her words strike me like a lightning bolt, freezing me in my chair. Panic surges through my veins, a visceral fear taking hold. Seeing my abrupt shift in demeanor, Carol frowns. "Are you okay, Ava? Surely you know I was just joking, right?" Before I can respond, anxiety propels me to my feet. I rush out of the lounge, fleeing down the hall until I burst into the open air of the school parking lot. I jump in my car and speed away, heart racing. No, this can't be happening. Please don't let it be happening. My mind races as I grapple with the implications of her jest. Had I truly been reckless? I drive as if the world is on fire, heedless of the speed limit. Only the truth matters right now. Reaching the store, I park in haste, nearly colliding with Emma as I sprint past her, fear evident on my face. "Ava," she calls, surprise etched across her features. I don't answer. I dash to the ladies' section, grabbing a handful of tests before making my way to the counter, urgency propelling me forward. I pay in a blur and rush back to my car, desperation fueling my every move. Home is a blur as I follow the familiar routine. 3 glasses of water to clear my mind, and then I retreat to the bathroom, heart pounding in my chest as I prepare to take the test. The weight of silence settles heavily as I wait, each heartbeat a reminder of the impending reality. No, this cannot be my fate. I can't be pregnant, especially not with Ethan's child. Why, God? I whisper, tears streaming freely down my cheeks. Waiting for an answer only draws more questions, leaving me in a disorienting sense of limbo. Why this misfortune? Why now? I sink to the bathroom floor, utterly depleted. Is this my lot in life? Unplanned pregnancies haunting me like an unwelcome curse? First Noah and now this. My gaze drifts to the cold tiles beneath my feet, retracing the path that led me here. Ethan and I shared one night of recklessness, unprotected passion. I had intended to take the morning after pill, but as time passed, I had become lost in the haze of my life's chaos, and the thought slipped away. I had informed Ethan about my oversight, expecting him to erupt in anger, but instead, he had enfolded me in calm reassurance. Together, we reasoned that the chances of pregnancy were slim. Yet, I've noticed changes. My period is late, but I dismissed it as an effect of stress. My increased appetite, a mere byproduct of my emotional state. The loud banging on the door jolts me from my spiraling thoughts, but I cannot bring myself to move. Now more than ever, I yearn for solitude from the world. I bury my face between my knees and block out the sound, wishing for the relentless knocking to cease. Then, as abruptly as it started, quiet descends. Relief washes over me like a blanket, but my heart drops as I hear the door creak open, heavy footsteps padding up the stairs. Before I can even think of hiding from whoever it is, a shadow fills the doorway, dark and looming. "Ava!" It's Rowan's voice, deep and resonant, cutting through the silence like a knife. The moment our eyes meet, tears spring forth once more. Of all the people in the world, why did it have to be him? Chapter 60, what are you doing here? I choked out, my voice trembling amidst my tears. Rowan knelt before me, a mixture of concern and confusion clouding his gaze. Emma told me she saw you at the store. She said you looked hysterical and that you bought a bunch of pregnancy tests before leaving. His fingers brushed lightly against my cheeks, attempting to wipe away the streams of sorrow. Damn Emma and her loose lips. What did she think she would achieve by telling Rowan about my desperate purchase? She had no right to tell you. It's not her business, nor is it yours. I spat, indignation flaring like an uncontrolled flame. Rowan remained unfazed, his expression turning serious. Have you taken the test? I merely nodded, the floodgates of fresh tears threatening to spill over. And, he pressed, his voice a soft yet persistent nudge. Silence hung heavy in the air as I struggled to voice the reality I feared. When my silence lingered, Rowan's gaze drifted around the room, finally landing on the discarded tests sprawled near the sink. He rose, stepping toward the evidence of my inner turmoil. Rage should have surged through me at his invasion of my privacy, yet I found myself uncaring, consumed by the weight of my anxiety. Returning to my side, he opted for sitting next to me rather than kneeling. "Congratulations. You're going to be a great mother," he said, an unexpected tremor threading through his voice. I rested my head against his shoulder, grappling with my swirling thoughts. You never wanted to have another baby with me, even though I yearned for one. I always thought it was because you believed I would be a terrible mother." Insecurity, my longtime companion, reared its head once again. The truth was painfully evident. He hesitated to embrace another child, still clinging to the frayed hope that Emma might return. It was easier to deceive myself, to believe I wasn't enough than to confront the reality that he simply didn't want to create a life with me. "I've never thought you were a bad mother, Ava. You're incredible. Just look at the bond you share with Noah," he countered, pausing for effect. "Can I tell you something?" I nodded, curiosity piqued. I was always jealous of your relationship with him. I still am, he confessed, the sincerity in his voice making me lift my head in disbelief. Really? It was hard to reconcile this moment with the Rowan I had known. The one who would have turned his back without a second thought, uncaring of the chaos swirling around me. Yeah, he affirmed, and silence enveloped us like a comforting blanket. As I sat there, exhaustion crept over me, and I couldn't pinpoint the exact moment I drifted off. When slumber claimed me, the last sensation I felt was his gentle lips brushing my forehead. I awoke the next afternoon, revitalized yet drained. Breakfast lay untouched on my side table, probably cold, a testament to the turmoil of the previous day. Dragging myself from the cocoon of warmth, I schedule an appointment with my gynecologist, each step feeling heavier than the last. I took a quick shower and dressed, the effort feeling monumental. Hunger eluded me as I eyed the food but pushed it aside, attributing it to Rowan's concern. Climbing into my car, I turned the ignition with a heavy heart, deliberately moving at a crawl as if trying to stall the inevitable visit to the doctor. After what felt like an eternity, I arrived at the clinic. The sight of couples waiting with anticipation struck a chord deep within me, echoing memories of my pregnancy with Noah. Rowan had never once accompanied me to these appointments. I often marveled at how he insisted on being present during my labor, despite his evident indifference towards my well-being and that of the child. Shaking off those thoughts, I provided my details to the receptionist before sinking into a chair, anxiety curling in my stomach as I waited. Ava Sharp. My name abruptly cut through the air 45 minutes later. I stood and made my way into Dr. Raven's office, her warm greeting a stark contrast to the chill inside me. Good to see you, Ava. What brings you here today? She asked, settling into her chair. I need an ultrasound. I took some pregnancy tests yesterday, and they came back positive. I just need confirmation, I replied, clenching my hands to quell the rising tide of jitters. That's certainly doable. Just hop onto the bed while I set things up. Her kindness was reassuring, and I nodded, taking my place on the examination table, my heart racing uncontrollably. Please lift your top, she instructed gently. I complied, my hands trembling as the cold gel met my skin. She maneuvered the wand carefully, and with each passing second my anxiety peaked. You're definitely pregnant, around 3 months along, she smiled, just as the unmistakable rhythm of a heartbeat played through the room. As tears threatened to spill over, I gripped the edge of my shirt, her pleasure striking me with a jarring contrast. The remainder of the appointment blurred into an incoherent rush of instructions about diets and vitamins. I walked out of the office with the dull throb of agony in my chest, cradling the physical proof of my condition. The images of my unborn child clutched tightly in my hand. Numbness enveloped me as I drove, reality settling into a cruel acceptance. I had fostered a glimmer of hope, a lingering wish that the tests might be wrong, that the universe would bend to my will even for a moment. Yet here I was, en route to an uncertain future with tangible evidence of a life I never intended to create nestled in the backseat. I parked my car in an unremarkable spot, my feet moving towards the cliff as if compelled by an unseen force. How could I find joy in this child? The circumstances of their conception were steeped in betrayal and lies, an innocent life intertwined with the chaos wrought by the man who had once tried to shatter my world. One step forward would mean freedom from the turmoil. It would steal away the pain, sadness, and heartbreak like shadows evaporating in the sunlight. I would be liberated from the relentless darkness that consumed me. As I stood there, poised on the precipice of oblivion, a distant cat cried out. I ignored it, captivated by the tempest in my mind. Just then, the heavy thud of a door slamming jolted me from my thoughts. What the hell do you think you're doing, Ava? Rowan's voice cut through the air, laced with an alarm that sent shivers down my spine. I refused to turn around, the wind picking up as if urging me onward, forward into the void where I longed to escape. Ava, please, step away from the cliff, come to me. I felt his presence drawing near, yet I remained rooted to the spot. I was weary, exhausted from the tears, the hurt, the unending battle within. I don't think I can do this, Rowan. I don't want to keep fighting. I want the pain to stop. I want to know what peace feels like. I haven't known it my whole life, I cried, the words spilling out like an overfilled cup. Killing yourself isn't the answer, he asserted, reaching out to pull me back to safety. I had been so lost in my own despair that I hadn't realized how close he had come. Let go of me, let me go, I can't take it anymore. I screamed, struggling against the grip he had on me, desperate for release. Snap out of it, Ava, he thundered, his voice a mix of anger and desperation. Think about Noah. Are you going too? Leave him motherless? A young boy grieving the loss of his beloved mom? And your unborn child, are you truly so selfish that you take an innocent life? Your own flesh and blood. He shook me, his face fierce, eyes blazing with intensity. The moment he mentioned Noah, my resistance faltered. Rowan? No, I don't care how you feel right now or if you hate me for it later. I'm getting you an appointment with a therapist. You're going to tackle your demons, and you're going to be the best goddamn mother to your 2 children, loving them no matter who their father is or so help me God, Ava. He didn't finish the sentence, but I understood the weight behind his words. Breathless, he held me tighter, those gray storms in his eyes softening as his grip around me solidified. I let myself sink into him, surrendering to his strength and the warmth radiating from him. How did you find me? I whispered, my voice breaking as he began to carry me to his car. I will always find you, Ava, he promised, his tone resolute. Thank you for pulling me back today, I murmured, feeling shame seep into my consciousness as realization swept over me. Contemplating my life, my baby's life, even for a fleeting moment, was a burden I shouldn't have to bear alone. He responded with a gentle kiss to my cheek, then my temple, a tender reminder of the bond we still shared despite the wreckage surrounding us. Rowan was right. Noah didn't deserve to lose his mother, nor did my unborn child deserve to be a victim of my despair. They deserved a mother who learned to embrace life, to love fiercely, even against the backdrop of bitterness. A change was in the air, one that required pushing aside my anger and confronting Ethan. He needed to know he was going to be a father. It was time to make that trip to prison.